Hello, and welcome to Building High Performance Cultures, a weekly series where we talk with culturepreneurs from top organizations about how they've built high performance cultures and how they're putting culture at the center of strategy to help drive exceptional performance. I'm Marty Parker, the President and CEO of Waterstone Human Capital, and my guest today is the Chief Executive Officer of Paladin Security Group Ltd, Ashley Cooper. Ashley, welcome to Building High Performance Cultures.
Marty, thanks for having me.
Just delighted to have you. Now, a little bit more about Ashley, other than name and serial number. Ashley started working with Paladin as a security officer while completing his Bachelor of Commerce degree at the University of British Columbia. And it was through this experience that he learned the business from the ground up, recognizing the importance of security officers to the success of the organization. Now, shortly after, upon graduation, Ashley moved quickly from managing the 4-person company to acquiring the entity in what would be his first of many acquisitions within the security industry. Today, Paladin delivers excellence and value-added service offerings to clients and partners within hospitals, college campuses, governments, shopping malls, oil and gas facilities, residential high-rise, and too many more to mention. And more incredibly successfully and overwhelmingly, today, Paladin has over 20,000 team members across a multitude of operations and offices in North America. Paladin, on top of this, has been recognized as one of Canada's most admired cultures 3 times, most recently in 2019. And Ashley himself was named one of Canada's most admired CEOs in 2014. Now, Ashley, for people who aren't that familiar with Paladin Security Group, tell us a little bit about the organization and what you do.
First off, Marty, thanks for all the kind words there. You're making me feel good here. But anyway, Paladin is a full-service security company that started back in 1976, as you mentioned, with 1 contract and 4 employees. And super proud to say today that we actually still have our very first contract, which is really something that makes us all feel really good about the contract stickiness within our organization. But over the years, we've grown and moved across Canada and the US now, and again up to 20,000 people. But when I say full service security, what I'm really referring to is that we offer a whole host of security solutions for customers that have security challenges and issues, and it may be security officers, mobile patrols, alarm response, alarm systems, monitoring of those alarm systems, integrated systems, which are cameras and access control, investigations, risk management, basically the whole challenge that a customer may have. And really, I think one of the things that makes us different in that is that, a customer may come to an organization and say, listen, I have a security problem, and what's your security problem? And they go, oh, the company might say, well, we'll solve it with a guard because, well, under the breath, they say that's all we have is just guards. And they'll go to another company and say, hey, we have a security problem, and they'll say, well, we'll solve it. We'll investigate it. We'll find out who's responsible. We'll charge them, and we'll solve your problem. Or we'll go to a systems company, and they'll recommend a system. And we're not really captured by any of those things. We do it all. And so what we do is we find out what the problem is that the customer is experiencing. We do a security assessment, and then we come forward with a series of solutions that provide the customer with the best value and the best method of solving that particular challenge.
Interesting. Now, Ashley, what did the culture look like at Paladin way back when you started in that 4-person business and really kind of started the company, if you will, then? And really, I know it's a tough question to ask, but how has it evolved over the years to where you are today?
Well, it's funny you say that. I was laughing about this the other day. I mean, my first shift in the company was as a janitor when I was 14, and then I worked as a security guard through my university years. But when I graduated, I ended up buying the company from my brother, who owned it at the time, and so the culture back then, we had four older gentlemen who were been retired from their first career and were pretty steadfast and set in their ways. And I'm not sure they were too interested in listening to some pimply-faced kid coming out of university, but we really kind of set the table by in the early days. If any of them needed a day off, I would put them on the uniform and take over for them and help them out. And it was really about facilitating support of our people. And that's what I really saw my role as. And so as time went on, we began to develop a little bit of a culture about that. It's about supporting each other so that we could better support our customers. And that's really where the customer or the whole culture within Paladin started. And today it's really no different. And what it is today is we call ourselves the Paladin family, and we're super lucky and really thankful of the fact that we're a large organization and we have the resources that go along with being a large organization, but we have a small company feel and really have that ability to provide personalized service to our customers and really personalized service to each other and become that family. And so that's really part of what our culture is today. It's really about, an empathetic culture that supports one another.
Ashley, I mean, how do you ensure? It's one thing when you have 4 people, 40 people, or even 400 people, but with 20,000 and counting, how do you ensure that culture is at the center of your strategy at Paladin?
Well, I think it's important to sometimes look at things and you can say, listen, we're pretty good at this and we're pretty good at that. But I think as important is to look at the world and find out what maybe you're not good at and what you shouldn't be involved in. And so I think that when you're thinking about where culture should be involved in the strategy is sometimes you should make a call of what you're not going to do. And we've done that. And one of the things that we don't want to be involved with is we don't want to be involved with certain kind of customers. We're not while we want to grow and we want to help people and support them and make the world a safer and friendly place, we recognize that we're not right for everybody. And so we want to find customers that value their security, that value and respect the individuals that are going to work, the Paladin folks that are going to work there, that are want to make sure that they pay a fair wage for hard work that we do and value what we do. And similarly, I would say on the acquisition front, when we look at acquisitions, not every acquisition is a right acquisition. And so we're in the early days of every company, you always take the business, whatever business comes your way, you almost take it because you need that business and you need to put food on the table and so forth. But as we've gotten a little larger, we've really made sure that we focus on the right fit of both customers and employees within the firm.
Yeah. Now, you're not just a supportive, empathetic organization. I know that you're very much a high performance culture, and that comes with a lot of risk in a business that you're in, which you take on behalf of your customers and clients. But what does high performance look like at Paladin?
That's a great question, Marty. I would say it looks like the same thing it looks like in many, many other organizations, people that are able to be efficient and capable in the tasks and the day-to-day operations that they do. So I think every organization has those kinds of performance measurements. But the other piece that comes within our organization is how do those folks get on with their fellow Paladinians and how do they get on with their clients? So we really want to see how people are interacting with their team, how they're interacting with their customers and even our customers' customers, and how they manage and how they deal with people who they report to and who report to them within the organizational chart. So I'm really always reminded of the concept of character almost being defined as what you do when nobody's looking at you. And so I think about that, and we want people that really do care and that will do those things when they'll do the little things and they'll do the things when nobody's watching them to make sure that we as an organization are successful and our clients are successful and safe, and that their fellow Paladinian is able to become successful as well.
Yeah. And that comes down really to how kind of the values of and guiding principles of an organization. So tell us a little bit about Paladin's 6 guiding principles and really how they do help you perform and drive success within the organization.
Sure. I mean, our basically our statement of our statement is we make the world a safer and friendlier place. But we have these 6 guiding principles, and what they are is they're a very simple and easy 6 group of principles to remember, and it's what makes us successful. And really, I'll just quickly recite them here. And it's, you start by hiring the right people, you train them properly, you deploy them properly, which means that, you don't put the round peg into the square hole. You support them in their position, you recognize them when they do well, and you coach them to constantly be better and to grow their careers. And so when you think about those 6 things, they're very easy to remember and very easy to simple when you look at it. And so there's all of these different areas that you can go wrong in the process of putting together what we do. And so the first one is just hiring the right people. It's really easy to go wrong in that. You know, you could be in an employee's market, and what ends up happening is that you're desperate to get people, and you hire the wrong person. You hire anybody who comes through the door, and then what that does is it sets the whole rest of the process on its ear. And so we don't want to do that. So even in times of tight employment, what we want to make sure we're doing is we're hiring the right people in our organization. And then other parts, you know, you've got to train people properly. If you don't train them properly, I think it's disrespectful to the individual, but it's also not providing a service to our clients. I mean, that's what we really pride ourselves on, the quality of training that we provide here, and that's really important to us. So those 6 guiding principles really rule how it is we do the bread and butter of our business, so to speak.
Now, in your 2019 Canada's Most Admired Corporate Cultures Award submission, you stated that Paladin is really transforming what is traditionally seen as entry-level jobs into a career. So how are you working to change that perception, and what has it really meant for the way that you recruit and retain team members?
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you think about the job of security, and going back many years ago, people looked at security guards like the Maytag repairmen, you know, sleepy guys who put their feet up, and you know, ex-retired policemen, and all those kinds of I think visions and cliches that went around with that. And the truth is nothing could be farther from the truth. The security industry has evolved incredibly over the last number of years, and it actually really is a wonderful industry with a tremendous future. You know, different parts of our industry are growing. And when I'm talking about different parts, like different verticals or different particular aspects of the industry, are growing between 6 and 15% every year. And so this really is becoming a professionalized industry. And so we like to look at it that our most important thing to do as an organization too is invest in our people, grow them, and give them a career rather than a temporary job. And so that's why so many people historically went into security. They go, geez, you know what? My prime vocation is not available right now, so I need a job. I better get a job just to put some food on the table until such time as it comes up. And so a lot of people historically did that, and sometimes even still do that. And they come and they join our company and they say, wow, there actually is a future here. And if I work hard and do some additional learnings and training, I can actually move up the ladder and I can get a career. And so what we really focus on is trying to grow our people in from that job, so to speak, into a career. And I think maybe there's nobody more appropriate as a poster child than that as me. And that's where I started. I started in the company as a janitor. But when I look around at every single leader in our firm, almost without exception, every single person that started up and worked their way through the ranks, you know, they know how difficult it is to stay awake at 5 a.m. when you're walking up, when you're at a post, and it's not an easy job. They know how tough it is to deal with unruly people who don't want to comply and don't want to do the right thing. And so it's a hard role, and so they understand that. And as they grow up through the organization and get extra training and learnings, they become a great leader for us. And they have passion not only for the company, but for the industry and for helping our clients, and also mentoring people that are coming up in behind them.
Well, you don't go from 4 to 20,000 and continue to be successful unless you invest in people and particularly grow leaders. And so what's this approach really taught you at Paladin about tomorrow's leaders and what we can be as leaders, and what can they be doing to help support the next generation?
Well, you know, we've had a CAGR of 25% for the last 14, 15 years in a row. So we've been growing at a reasonably good clip. And a number of years ago, we looked at what was happening with our growth, and we thought, well, geez, how do we support future growth? Because the only way we're going to be able to do it is if we bring in outsiders to take these new managerial roles. And that's not what we wanted to do, because we knew that those folks wouldn't understand our culture. They wouldn't really, in many cases, maybe they hadn't walked the beat. They didn't know what it was like to be a security officer or a technician or all of the other areas that we cover. And so we decided to start investing heavily into training, and we started creating not just entry-level training programs, but supervisory level training programs. We created basically the University Paladin, which is a management training program that we host every year and now we're doing it several times a year, but where we bring in folks from all over North America, and we have a week-long intensive training program with all the important things that we think are and then there's lots of training and homework and pre-training and all these sorts of things. But it's all about growing our people. And so for us, by growing our people, we're able to facilitate the growth that we're having in the market.
Ashley, it's, not to minimize the growth or the challenges associated with it, but when you have more than 20,000 employees in multiple locations and growing, how do you really ensure that you are able to sustain a strong and consistent culture?
Yeah, I think that's the big question, Marty. That's the most challenging thing that we have. I mean, many of our employees work at offices and buildings owned by other organizations, and they work within those organizations. And so in many cases, many of our customers want our people to embrace their corporate culture, because maybe security is the first person that they see when they're at a shopping center or as they enter a building, and they want that person to embody the culture that they have. So I talked earlier about how we want to work with organizations that think like we do, that there's a synchronicity of culture and value of people and value of respect and these sorts of things. And so those things are consistent between the organizations, but we always start in the beginning. I mean, we have a lot of pre-training for our people, more than any other firm in the industry. Spend a lot of time up front with our people to make sure that they not only understand the Paladin culture, but they also understand what it is they need to do, how they need to do it, what the law is, all sorts of other things. And so we spend a lot of time with them, and then we have constant communications with them at every level, be it newsletters to discussions with management team, talking about career planning and career growth, all these sorts of things. And so we try to create as many touch points as we can to work our folks through those things. But at the end of the day, that's probably the very most difficult thing in our business, because we don't have a factory with 20,000 people that are all in it. We can all get them together and we can do a town hall meeting or something like that. It's just not possible.
Yeah, and a related question, but it's interesting because often when I'm talking about you, you're talking about your people, talking about your culture. You're not talking a lot, unless I ask you about acquisitions, but there's a lot that organization and leaders can learn from someone like you who's been through the acquisition process. Let's just say more than a few times. So with that kind of as a foundation, what's the one piece of advice you'd have for other leaders when it comes to building or transitioning culture as part of an acquisition?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because what I think you have to appreciate is an acquisition is a scary time for everybody involved. If you're the acquirer, you don't necessarily know you think you know what you're getting, but you don't necessarily know what you're getting. You've been told certain things by the seller and by the seller's agent, and you think you know what you're getting into, but you don't. And it's super scary from the employee's side. On the other side, all of the folks that are in the organization are these acquirers. Like, you come into work one day and all of a sudden there's an announcement, geez, our company's just been bought. Okay, there's a surge of adrenaline. You're scared now. How are these people going to be? Is it going to be like, are they going to be nice? Are they going to be mean? Am I going to have a job? What's their culture going to be like? Am I going to have to change everything I do? Or, and so it's a really concerning time for the individuals. And so one of the things that I think is important from our perspective is that we take our time on these things. And I think the very first thing we focus on is the people that are in the organization and the customers. Number one goal, make them all comfortable with who we are, what we're about. We're not going to change the world overnight. I mean, I think a lot of people come into acquisitions and they think that, well, because we're the acquirer, we know better. We're smarter, we're bigger, we're whatever we are. And they come in thinking that they should change this this acquisition company overnight, and you shouldn't. I think the other thing that really you have to think about is you have to come in, you have to listen to what they do. You have to not try to blow the model up overnight. Listen to their model, because to be honest with you, we've in so many cases found tremendous ways to do business, better ways of doing business than we currently do business in some of the acquisition targets that we've worked with. And so we learn out of every single one of these. And I think the point is don't go in thinking that you know everything. You got to go and you got to listen, you got to hear, and you got to be collaborative. And if you do that, I think you set the tone for a good culture going forward. And of course, you got to be completely honest and transparent with everybody about what it is you're trying to do. And if you do that, you develop a strong culture in that organization. But it certainly takes time, and you really have to I would say, get a lot of your folks with the culture in there to infuse it into there so that they understand what that is. And it takes time.
No, that's a phenomenal insight. Switching gears a little bit, Ashley, how does, hot topic obviously, but how does diversity, equity, and inclusion and culture tie together at Paladin, and what role do they play at your place in driving performance?
Well, I think that diversity, equity, inclusion is kind of it's a little bit of a new buzzword that's hit the market in the last number of years, and I think everybody's jumping to try to get on board in some ways. And for us, I got to say there's nothing new to it. For us, we've been practicing it for years, and gosh, you could go back many years ago. I've been quoted saying this one phrase, if not once, at least probably a couple thousand times. And it's really, I don't care if a person is black, pink, purple, or green. It doesn't matter to me. If they can do a great job, we'll have a home for them here at Paladin. And so that's the way we've always looked at it, because, we truly are a very, very cosmopolitan firm. And by having that diversity, we have diversity of thought as well. And so when I sit down at a table with a bunch of folks around me, I don't want everybody to be thinking the same way I am. I want them to be thinking differently than me, because if we're going to be relying on my ideas, we're probably not going to get very far. So, we want to have diversity of thought. And I think that leads to a stronger, better company, and leads to a stronger, better corporate culture too, because everybody has a say. We all work together. We have ideas. We brainstorm, and we try to do the right thing to make the world a safer and friendlier place. And so for me, that's really what it's all about. It's just about having that diversity of thought.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of a safer and better and friendlier place, how has Paladin navigated really the past 15 plus months?
Well, Marty, I'm not going to lie. It's been tough, and it's been tough on everybody. There's when you think back about mental health challenges that exist in the world today that didn't exist at the same level 15 months ago. There's people that are acting out all over the globe right now and doing things that they wouldn't normally do, and all you can really chalk it up to is a high level of stress and mental health challenges. And so, our organization is no different. We've got challenges that way, but as an organization as a whole, we've had good areas and bad areas like all businesses. And so, take our parking side of the business, for example, where we have a parking company. Well, people haven't been coming to work very often, so parking is down there. People weren't going to the shopping malls very often, so parking is down there, the airports, all these different places. And so our business is down there. It was down in that particular area considerably, but in other areas it's been up. And so in healthcare, for example, our business has grown in that segment because our folks are helping with the delivery of COVID testing stations and vaccines and all these sorts of things. So we've had ups and downs, but we're working our way through it. But it's I'm not going to lie to you when I say we're all looking to get back to some normalcy, just like everybody else. It's this 15 months has been tiresome on everybody, I think.
No, without question. So what has COVID-19 and the pandemic taught you about the Paladin culture?
I would say the number one lesson I've learned out of it is that you cannot beat face-to-face interaction. We can sit back and say, geez, we're connecting with people in our firm by Zoom, and we're we're reaching out, we're having, little wine Zooms, or, we still do the Scotch o'clock over Zoom at times. But, at the end of the day, I just, you can't beat good old fashioned face-to-face interaction. And it's really how we humans are wired. And so I just, that's the thing. I hope we never go through this again. And on a personal level, as well as, Zoom has its way. Like, I haven't been on a plane in probably 14 months or so. And I used to live on a plane, and I traveled a lot. And so all of a sudden I'm realizing, well, maybe I don't need to travel as much going forward. Maybe some of my meetings can be done through Zoom. But, at the end of the day, I actually personally enjoy that face-to-face interaction. And I really enjoy just meeting new people, meeting our customers, meeting our people all over North America. And I can't wait to get back to that.
Yeah, you and me both. I couldn't agree with you anymore. So let's look ahead. Forget about the last 15 months. Enough about that. Let's look ahead 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. Ashley, what do you see as critical to aligning your people to your culture and sustaining your high performance culture?
Well, we're a people business, and we're a growing one at that. And so I would say the first challenge that we're going to have on the horizon is the same challenge that's been experienced really throughout North America right now, and that is that's a people challenge. There's a whole host of reasons behind it right now, but there's essentially there's a shortage of people out in the market that are looking for work. Some of it may be because of changing demographics in our society, and the baby boom reaching an older age. Some of it's related to, I think, values and beliefs that some of the new generations are having about work. Some of it's even related to government funding programs and things like that. So there's, I think we're all facing that significant challenge right now of getting great people on board. I mean, you talk to any CEO in any business, any leader in any business, and what they're going to talk to you about is, how do I get great people? I want great people in our company. That's what we want to. That's what we want to have. And so there's a huge competition to get great people into your organization. And I think what's going to end up happening is that, and you said it best many times, when you talk about how your business is going to grow, it's going to grow because you attract great people. So why are you going to attract great people? Because you have a strong corporate culture, a culture that resonates with the people that are joining your firm. They feel good about being there. They feel like they're making a difference, and they are, and they're allowed to grow. They're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to do different things, and they're not kind of on a clock where they got somebody looking over their shoulder. And so when we think about this, we're thinking about, how do we make sure that we sustain our culture? How do we make sure that we even grow our culture and make it better over the years, so we can continue to attract great people into our firm to make that world a safer place? And so that's what I see as the biggest challenge. And boy, I mean, nobody has really the answer. We're all kind of stumbling it through it in some ways and doing our best. But I think the corporate culture piece is the defining difference there for organizations.
Well, obviously, we feel the same way. And no, I don't think any of us have the answers, but I know you and folks at Paladin have been asking the right questions for a long time, and have really stayed committed to your culture and evolving it. Or else, it wouldn't matter how many acquisitions that you did. You have to keep those people and keep developing them and keep growing them. And that's what's made for your success, amongst many other things. So one final question, Ashley, and that's, what's one piece of advice that you'd give to a young person today? They could be a new leader who's just starting out on their own culturepreneurial, high performance culture journey.
I think that's actually pretty simple, Marty. We've all heard this one as children, but just remember the golden rule: treat people like you would like to be treated. I would say lead with empathy, courage, and integrity, and just do the right thing by others. Do the right thing by others. Do the right thing by your people, by your customers, and everything will work out in the long run. And sometimes it's hard to do those sorts of things, but those are the things that really help, and that's what's going to take you to the next level in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because as I've followed the Paladin story now for a number of years, watched you develop and grow as a business, which is not a surprise. in any way, you may be in security solutions really around your customer needs, but you've actually been much more so in the people business with your focus on, making security a career for an entry-level person on up, developing leaders, and most of your leaders have been developed. Something like Paladin University, caring about somebody who walks in the door to the extent of the example that I've given. And that's just one example. I could give many more. And so when you talk about the golden rule and empathy and integrity and courage, you're going to have a much easier way of bringing people together as you like it, live and in person, than a lot of organizations are, because they benefited from that in-person kind of interaction over the years. And so I couldn't be happier to have you on the program today. And quite sincerely, not only have you been I would say a pillar of culture and performance, and it's organizations like yours who have really helped grow the Most Admired program. And more importantly than that, the concept that culture is your competitive advantage, and that if you put people and culture at the center of your business strategy, the results will follow. So on that, I want to thank Ashley Cooper, the Chief Executive Officer of Paladin Security, for joining us today. And Ashley, I really appreciate all the time that you've invested in this.
Thanks so much, Marty. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And join us next week for another episode of Building High Performance Cultures. And in the meantime, if you want to learn more about this topic or the Culturepreneur, please visit waterstonehc.com.